Hey guys, this is Dr. Colin Zhu, and thank you so much for being here with us on the Thrive Bites podcast. This is season 4, and we're so excited for you to be here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Colin Zhu, double boarded in family and lifestyle medicine, and I interview the best and most passionate health and wellness experts of the industry on this platform. And we talk about plant-powered living, emotional resilience, and creating a thriving mindset. And this season, we're taking it live, we're taking it on multiple platforms, and we're taking it as a Q&A discussion as well as our interviewing of our guests. So we're super stoked about this, and please remember to like and subscribe down below, and we will see you. Welcome to the next episode.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being here with us on the Thrive Bites podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Colin Zhu, and thank you so much. You can be anywhere in the world, and I'm very, very happy for you to spend just a few moments to share with us for today's discussion and episode. So today we're going to be, talking about navigating our identity, and I have a fabulous host with us today, or fabulous guest, I should say. His name is Dr. Francis Yoo. He's born and raised in New York, and his own life journey has took him to various mainstream and unconventional paths for healing, growth, and development. He graduated from NYU in mathematics and philosophy, and he actually, did a little side gigs in terms of DJing. And various underground hip hop shows, and I love it. He earned his Doctor of Osteopathy degree, another osteopath, very welcomed from the New York College of Osteopathic Medicine. And he's also combined his residency in family medicine and neuromuscular medicine as well, and is both board certified. He is an avid learner. He's been certified in medical acupuncture, clinical homeopathy, integrative medicine, pain medicine. He's done some training in Myers-Briggs certifications and a whole various line of others as well. And for today, his pursuit of self-healing and development has been crucial elements for his own journey far and wide, and his main interest is bringing all of his knowledge and experience to help others heal and develop. And he's currently has a part-time process, and his non-clinical work, which we're interested in talking about today, is helping Asian American physicians examine, explore, experience, and express their authentic self in a meaningful and fulfilling way so that they can stop living someone else's life and start living their own. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Francis Yoo. Hello.
Hello. I was like, who is that? Who is he talking about? It's like, oh, that's me. It's okay.
That's you, my friend.
Yeah.
Well, number one, thank you so much, for being here with us on the show. Your time and expertise, and you're very, very invaluable to our community. Not just as an Asian American, but as a human being, as a physician, as an osteopath, as someone that shows up. And I love, this topic that we're, about to talk about. And I think it's something that we don't explore enough on, and super, super important. So before we go into the nitty gritty of it, I like to start off by asking my guests their origin story. Can you share a little bit about how you got into medicine and the different iterations of medicine you had gone through afterwards? Because you have delved into so much, and I would love to know the why behind all that.
Yeah. Yes. So I was born in New York to immigrant parents, and they had a really tough time making their lifestyle and their living and to support me, and very common immigrant lifestyle. And fortunately or unfortunately, it depends how you look at it, I was just good at, maybe not studying, I was good at taking tests. Maybe and I was able to do well on tests and exams and school, kind of like that nerdy introverted kid. But I never really had this thing where I want to this when I grow up. I was not the 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old that said, I want to be this kind of doctor in 30 years. That was just not my experience. And I had to actually, from what I know now, has been a somewhat common experience. There's been a lot of, let's call it encouragement from my parents to pursue a career that's quote unquote highly respected, and it's more of a secure job and pays well and things like this. And of course, I did like science, I did like math, I do like talking with people and engaging with people. So medicine kind of happened. So I kind of went with the flow, and the flow took me to school, residency, and learning a lot of different things. So that's kind of the part one, I suppose. And the family medicine residency, right? Why family medicine? And I always say, because I didn't love any other rotation, and I kind of liked it all. But honestly speaking, though, if I look back on it, if I'm true to myself, the real answer was I wasn't sure and I couldn't commit. I couldn't dedicate myself to a single thing. I just wanted it all so that I could experience it all and perhaps do something with it later. And not only that, I did a combined residency, right? So I had family medicine and this osteopathic manipulative medicine training and all the other training as well, acupuncture, integrative medicine, pain medicine, kind of was my way to one way to see it is to learn more, which is very true. I'm an avid learner. I like learning, but it was for a way for me to figure out what way can I hone and navigate my career, my persona, my identity, how I show up in the world and do things for other people. And yeah, and that also goes with all the other non-medical things I've done as well.
Nice. Yeah, I could definitely relate. Very, very similarly, because I've, also been trained in family medicine and, took a lot of detours myself. And it's quite interesting because you said that, kind of exploring your own identity. I would presume professional identity, or maybe personal identity as well. Would you say?
Yeah, definitely both. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely relate on that, because when I started my professional career, I ended up doing locums, and that's Latin for to hold a place. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's kind of like a substitute teacher for doctors, where if a doctor falls ill, maternity leave, passes on, quit, whatever the reason is, we are contacted to kind of fill in that gap. And I chose that route to, really explore, the kind of like the atypical route. So I totally understand in terms of all these different, pathways, in terms of how to incorporate different modalities. Was it the reason, you found, incorporating all these different certifications and all these modalities? Was it one, just to learn more tools for your toolbox to be able to help patients? Or do you feel like, one specialty or one subspecialty just wasn't enough, or at the time, you felt like it wasn't complete or comprehensive to help your patient?
I think the easiest way to answer that is I was just exploring. As you said, my personal and professional identity, and I was done with my residency, and I was working, and I help people. My staff likes me, patients like me. That's all fine. Yeah, but then there was some other part of me that was just said, maybe there's something else, or maybe you can learn something to do even better for people. Maybe I don't know enough. These are all the struggles I have. I don't know enough. I don't have enough things. People know more than I do, and these are things I've struggled with. And I actually grandfathered into the pain and the integrative medicine right before they required the fellowships. It's because I just took so much CME that I was able to just take the exam, and so that's kind of like not a caveat, the disclaimer there. But that goes to show that I did hundreds of hours of this training, and I think part of it is just me looking for myself more. Like, how am I really showing up and actually helping out other people? I could always say I like to learn, which is true, but I realized personally it was also about how am I really actually serving? What is my niche, my
Mhm.
talent, my place, my how can I best help people that I in a way that I'm good at? That's also very that nourishes me and others people at the same time.
Mm.
I was exploring and discovering and finding out what's out there because there's a lot out there. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I could definitely, relate on that. I say this a few times throughout the years that, I couldn't have gotten my start without, my own mother being, a traditional Chinese medical doctor, and Chinese medicine by itself, as you know, having done medical acupuncture, is just so many different approaches, perspectives, ways of looking at it, and it's a very holistic, way of looking at it. And that's how I got into osteopathy and wanting to be a DO as opposed to an MD, because I just fell in love with the philosophy. And kind of like you with family medicine, I was like, oh, it's like I can't just pick one. I just want to do a whole bunch of them. And I can understand, why the other certifications. So let's change gears a little bit. And, nowadays we are, for those that are not in the healthcare, system, and even before COVID, we've have faced, as healthcare providers, whether you're a physician and nurse or, an allied health professional, it's our healthcare system can be improved, not the best. There's so many different players, so many different cooks in the kitchen per se, that revolves around it. And I would love to hear your point of view and your experience over time with it so far. But I've been jaded and disenchanted with it, for different reasons and different occasions, and I wanted to really do more. I wish I could just wave a magic wand, and just be able to fix everything, but there's just so many pieces to it. So
Yeah.
a large part of it is the growing and evolving trends of talking about physician wellness and physician burnout and physician, suicide, and a large part of that is getting kind of lost in that shuffle. So, the question is that, when we're talking about that, and here we're talking about navigating our identity, why do you think that's a important question to ask ourselves, as we're kind of like what you're doing right now or have been doing over time? Why is that an important question to ask yourself? Who am I at the end of the day?
Yeah. So I really like Seth Godin has a short and a longer video called "What Is School For?" And this is my paraphrasing of it. Um, School is kind of like it's basically a grading system, right? Once you pass the exam, your quality of your product is good enough to go to the next stage, go from kindergarten to first grade, the next, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in the end, looking back on it, school was very important, very educational. It helped me with a lot of things. But the one thing it didn't help me with, it was learn how to be me, learn how to live a life that's actually the most healthy for me. There wasn't a Francis Yu 101 or introduction to Francis Yu or introduction to how to know you or the semester on self discovery or whatnot. It's just not what school is made for. So me being to, let's say, how many 20 plus grades of school, right? Physicians and those who work in the healthcare, they just have a lot of education, more and more education about how other stuff works, but not really how to know themselves per se. So now, like when I graduated, it's like, oh, I'm a doctor now. Okay, yeah, I'm a doctor. I have my badge, I have my white coat, and things like this. But what about when I'm home? My white coat is off, my badge is off. I'm a person besides being a physician. And some physicians are, and anyone actually that has a title or work title, they can be so enmeshed, identify with their persona of I'm this at work, that once that part of their identity is gone, or is that threatened or challenged, whether it is from internally from lack of wellness or burnout, whatever you call it, or even when you retire, it's just, what did I explore the parts of me that's um, how to call it, not ancillary, but complementary to this work persona, whether it is being like a son, or whether it is being other aspects of me that may not have been explored because of this, a lot of attention given to education, the work, etc. And it's going back to the question, is that, we talk about self-care, but what is this self? I mean, yes, we can talk about the basic physiologic needs like sleep, nutritious, like good nutritious ratioed food, and activity, things like this. But what I obsess over, I suppose, is the whole, who am I at the end of the day? Who am I if I can't be a doctor? Who am I if, let's say, I'm not a son anymore because my parents are gone, or whatever? At the end of the day, if I'm alone and nothing else is going on, I still have a self. And how do I care for that self? Because out of that meaning uh, comes a identity that's not necessarily tied to other things, that I can express myself fully uh, in any sort of environment, whether it's at work, etc., things like this. And that's why, for me, the meaning and the fulfillment and identity is such a core element of the wellness we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's so many so many things to tease apart in that one. But you hit something, really important, is the self part, right? And it's almost like, you don't really get a chance to, you know, actually take the time out to explore that, right? Because we go into preschool and grade school starting at like 4 or 5 years old, and then you are part of the system,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's public. I've only been in public schools. I don't know what private schools are like. But you're part of the system. It's very structured, right? You take a bajillion tests. And maybe you get bullied, maybe you don't, maybe if you're lucky you don't, and you form different kinds of relationships. And it's almost like you form a basis of yourself based off of everyone else. I say this a lot on the podcast. Your external world is a reflection of your internal world. So in a way, when you're asking that question of what is the self, it's almost like you actually have no time to actually process that and actually get a chance to explore that.
Yeah.
Right, unless you, for example, you go straight through school. Let's just say you don't go into college or university, you take a gap year, or after college or university. I know that after outside of the United States, it's a very common thing, for like Europeans, Australians, to take a gap year, and what they'll do is that they'll go around the world and work or travel and things like that. And to me, that's the juice right there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a juice right there. And, I guess to me, more time, the better, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't think there's not enough time, you need more time. And then once you are done with school, you go into the workforce, you get a job, and then you get married and you have a bajillion other responsibilities. And that's what I called the default life in my book.
Default life.
It's,
yeah.
the default life, just doing that pattern, you know what I'm saying? So what my follow-up question to that is, how have you explored that self? What was your individual journey? What did it consist of? Was it books? Was it conferences? Was it just solitude? Was it like what was it for you? So people can have an idea of what that means to explore the self.
Yeah, for me, I think more solitude probably would have been better. But I ended up, not that I regret it, studying Jungian psychology with the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, the Enneagram, which is another psychospiritual system, some cognitive behavior therapy, the Chinese medicine aspect of it, well-known and lesser-known meditative, contemplative schools. Basically, everything from basically if it exists, there's a 80-85% chance that I've heard of it to a certain extent. I basically explored a lot of different things, which I don't regret, but now that I look back on it, the solitude and really seeking inwards would help me a lot, because all this searching, what it helped me do is cognitively think I know things now. Okay, now I know this, I know the structure, I know how this theory works, but that I was still afraid to actually do anything about it. Meaning it was in my head, but not in my heart and my body. It was only until I started really bringing that into my whole, I'm gonna call it system, but really getting into the action motion of it, putting myself in challenging situations instead of just withdrawing and running away and intellectualizing and everything, and as well as getting help, whether it's coach, my Jungian psychoanalyst, or simply others that finding comfort when I need to, but also finding challenges when I need to. It's because yeah, my train of thought kind of paused there, but it was really a lot of learning and education. But the understanding really came from when my heart and body became involved, which is a very kind of Enneagrammic kind of concept where you can't just focus on the head or just on the heart or just on the body. I mean, you could, but it's just more effective and efficient if you just all of them switch on and are working together. Yeah.
To me, I mean, I guess there's so many different philosophies that talked about that kind of, that connection, right? A lot of, I guess masters of the time, athletes would call this like the flow, just getting into the zone and, just having everything connect. And depending on your profession, depending on what industry you work in, you could either be more logical and analytical, right? And tend to like just think, overanalyze, sometimes to the extreme of what we call analysis paralysis. Or you could be an extreme creative and learn to just ebb and flow with different moments, maybe feelings and emotions, to kind of bring about a certain expression, and that's where we talk about, that's where musicians live, and many different kinds of artists and actors and athletes live, so but what you bring up is what I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, is really about understanding and exploring yourself to a certain degree where, it's almost like the mind, or, maybe another word of it, would be the ego, right? And the heart and the spirit, or, you call the soul, are all connected, and they're not opposing to one another. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it's definitely, that sounds pretty good. The one thing, because people react differently, and for me, a lot of it was working on my reactions, because I know when I'm in a tough situation, I just kind of freeze or block it out. I run away or withdraw, or I get fearful, or there's some set of patterns that I now recognize that I do, where I shut down, or my brain takes over, thinks about these solutions, possible solution. Oh, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this, but end up not doing any of them. And different people have different patterns and habits they have. A lot of it is about finding out how I don't serve myself the best way. Let's put it this way: certain defenses and ways are really good for us. They protect us. They defend us from external or psychological anxieties, etc. But at some point, if we really want to grow, it's about truly facing how we sabotage ourselves and say, "I'm gonna face this. It's gonna be uncomfortable," and grow from that. And it's exceptionally hard because you're facing down, well, not facing down, but you're facing things that are in service of you, but protecting you, but maybe too protective. It's not allowing you to really grow into dangerous areas. As I always say, stress is a force that causes change. Like for example, our part of our ear bone, the mastoid process, that little bump here, doesn't exist when we're born. It's the baby turning their head with their muscle that actually makes that bone, and that's what stress is. Uh, but sometimes that stress is maybe too much, so we need to protect ourselves. But if we keep protecting yourself and you don't use the stress for a transformative, positive navigation working through, then you'll just kind of stay to where you are. Which I'm not saying is good or bad. It's just if you really want to grow, then it's having to look at yourself and challenge yourself is not comfortable at all. But there's something beautiful that comes after. Yeah.
Yeah. So to summarize, it's really, finding the growth in discomfort as opposed to just remaining where you are within the sandbox, per se. And then, trying to say yourself, I kind of want to go outside of the sandbox, but I'm a little bit afraid, like this is really comfortable. Like who wouldn't want to just stay in the sandbox and just play all day long, right? But that there's something, a little bit over the hillside of that other side of the playground that, okay, we can explore a little bit more, maybe it's safe, maybe it's not safe. I don't know, but it's important, to do so. And I think something like that, a principle like that is super key, and it's applicable in, in so many different applications of life, because how, as an individual, you grow, how as a society will we grow, right? So this is great. And I want to take a quick commercial break. Guys, for those of you that are joining on, I'm here with the awesome Dr. Francis Yoo. We're talking about navigating our identity. And if you have any comments or questions, please write it down in the box, and we'll just take a quick 30-second commercial break. We'll be right back.
So I know that sometimes, even if the road gets a little bit rough, or even if it gets a little bit blurry or foggy and I'm not really sure, I know I can still see it. If I try hard, I can still see what I want to reach. I knew there was going to be naysayers. I knew that that's going to be part of my struggle on my road to try to make the national team. And just like in every aspect of life, sometimes there's people that are not going to believe in you. But you have to believe in yourself, and you have to work not only hard, but you have to work smart. You have to know that those people sometimes, they say things like that just to kind of bring down your game, your mental game. But you have to stay resilient. You have to stay focused.
All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. For those that are joining, this is Thrive Bites Podcast. I'm here with the awesome Dr. Francis Yoo, and we're talking about navigating our identity. So we're going to switch up a little bit here, and we're going to go a little bit deeper. And so, a part of your non-clinical work, you have stated that you're very passionate about helping other Asian American physicians navigate through different areas of themselves, right? So the question is why? Why is this important? I'm guessing there's two subsets to this, because one, you have Asian American, and then two, you have, the physician, the medical health part of it combining together. So I don't know if you want to break that down into two pieces, but like why that focus?
The short answer is that I can just relate to, because I am an Asian American physician, and with my experience helping others in this sort of context, I think the people that gravitated towards me and my background are those who had similar experiences, and they're Asian American and they're physician and have similar sort of situations or contexts growing up, relationship with parents. For a lot of people, it's being either immigrants or children of immigrants. And there's I won't say peculiar, but a theme of commonalities that's there. And it's easier to relate, and building that rapport is just such an important part of working together. And That's yeah. I think I'm sure I could go deeper, but that's really the crux of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very important. I think yeah, it's a very common thing. Sometimes it's used in comedy bits a lot where, you know, I'm first generation, Chinese American, so my parents are immigrants, and we were talking on, offline, and you're of Korean descent, and your parents are immigrants as well, so you're also first generation, right? So the commonality and the shared lived experience is super, super important, right? And I think, it's get made fun of a lot. And going back to the comedy bit, it's like, you know, it's funny because, whenever you think of an Asian parent wanting their kid to go on a certain route, it's either a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer of sorts, maybe a couple other things. And honestly, I don't know. Have you ever asked your parents why? Like, why? Because there's
Yeah.
actually, no really true, like, we, and as children, we were just like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I don't really like the sound of this. It doesn't really sound that attractive and that appealing, but I'm just going to go ahead and along with this because, we're just complacent and we don't really, talk back to authority, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Have you asked your parents why?
Yeah, I've actually been developing my relationship with them, and we do talk about this sometimes. And I think there are two things. It's just their background, as they came from South Korea, that physicians are just this, I don't know what to call it, this super respected authority figure, and they just kind of assume that's exactly how it is in the United States. So that's basically the first thing. And the second thing is they struggled, making a living, here because they came with, I don't know, with an umbrella and a couple of $100 or whatever. I don't know the exact number, and then. They struggle so much, et cetera, and they want a better life for me. So essentially, those are the two things. Although, ironically, we know that that's not always the case. We've seen, physicians lose their jobs and such, and we've also, it's funny. I told them, hey, if you have Korean connections, send them to my practice, my private practice. And they say, oh no, Korean people don't go to doctors. They just respect them a lot. It's like, okay, that's very interesting. And anyway, so that's the kind of interesting tidbits us answering that question.
It is. I don't know about your family and friends, but like they, mine doesn't go, they would, well, my parents do, but the stereotype, and it's actually true that, they themselves don't even go, which is, and it's kind of funny. It's like, why, and they would rather just handle it themselves or, I think it was like Ronnie Chang, his stand-up in Netflix. He was like, making fun of his mom. And she was saying like, they just take your money. Why don't you go? Because they just take your money. And I'm just like, well, isn't that the whole point? Isn't that the reason why you wanted me to go in the first place? It's like, but I thought you wanted me to go to help people. And he's like, no, I just want you to go and take other people's money and be respected. You know what I'm saying? So so unfortunately, I'm not sure if helping people was actually the priority of the whole bit. It's really about, being respected, I'm sorry to out, all the, Asian Americans out there, or maybe if this was a light bulb, I think you should go and actually ask your parents about this. And then hopefully you don't have like a midlife crisis or anything like that.
Or the midlife crisis is the stressor that'll help you find your identity, right? It's outside the sandbox, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that way, like you maybe decide to do something else and be like, here, mom and dad. So so another question, diverging from that as a follow-up is, for the ones that do come to you either to seek advice or counsel or, share just, a relatability, what are the hurdles that they have been going through?
Mm-hmm.
Is there unique struggles, that for Asian American physicians actually go through? I'm actually very, curious. I mean, I have my own, struggles. I'm not sure if they're related to just being Asian American, but like, I'm curious, for those that you've had discussions with about this topic, like what have been unique to them that they had to hurdle through?
Yeah, it's as a way to look at it, I will say this: when I'm with, let's say, my parents or in a Korean context per se, there's a particular way I do things or say things just because I have this habitual way of doing things. But when I'm in the hospital, I have this way of doing things in the hospital. Or I'm with English-speaking friends, I can do this way. Or I'm with English-speaking Asian American context, then it's a little bit different. And all of them have different values, expectations, maybe belief structures as well. And it's at some point, who am I amidst all of these different contexts? My parents say this, they want this, or why aren't you doing this? And then they feel like that makes no sense. So it's this then, okay, I understand that they want different things, they have different expectations, and part of it is part of my personal thing is I want everyone to be happy, right? Which maybe a physician thing as well. Like you want people to be happy. Maybe I mean that's a whole different discussion for a whole different time. And it's about juggling these expectations about parents who they say, oh, I did so much for you, and then how could you do this, and versus just this is my life and this is my years of residency that I did, or my years of struggles, and I'm my own person. And I'm sure other people have sort of similar situations, but it's this. I find a common theme is synthesizing the sometimes opposite different contexts that's going on, and the ones that we particularly discuss with this different expectations and backgrounds and beliefs about work, career, stability, things like this. Yeah.
Well, hopefully it doesn't you still deliver the same great care that you do, what I'm saying, but it's almost like a little bit, and again, we can go into this at a whole nother topic, but like customer service, the business side of medicine, hospitality part of it, that's actually, for, whether we like it or not, that's actually, part of it as well, so it's about, not entertaining, but like catering and making sure that everyone, gets the best, customer satisfaction and patient satisfaction as possible. So I could see, the struggle of needing to wear different hats, depending on the audience, which I don't know, for better or worse, is that a right or wrong thing to do? What I'm saying? To be able to, kind of turn yourself on and off, depending on who's in front of you per se, does it, for you, for example, do you feel that's a lot of work when you have to do that?
Well, personally for me, one of the things I've not been great at is really standing my firm stance and ground. Like, this is really what's important for me. This is really the value or belief or the rock I'm standing on per se. And I have a tendency to be kind of whisked away what other people want per se, which this is things I've been, working on with, professionals and myself and things like that. And I would say maybe there's people who would relate, and somebody who won't, someone who won't, but that makes sense. Is that my second, I don't call it third or half of life journey, is really about my identity, right? It's about what is the thing that I'm living for. Yes, I live for my parents, I live for my job. Those are things, but what am I living for? What is the thing that, above all else, this is the thing that's going to be important to me? And that's just something I've struggled with and had a hard time with, is because it was just easier to make everyone else happy, so I can go back in my room and play with my Nintendo, and everyone else is happy. I'm just alone and away from them. But that's not how I want my life to work. I want to integrate and engage with people, and not what's that word called? Just do what everyone else wants, but be able to engage with them as a person who also knows what I want, but is engaging with others together, as opposed to, okay, I'm going to do everything that you want at the expense of not really knowing what I want. So that's personally for me, part of a lot of my journey recently. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And there's no right or wrong to that. It's about, I guess a good follow question would be like, what is the endpoint? What is the actual outcome, that whether you've reached that? Do you feel like a certain level of like comfort within yourself as a healthcare provider, to, what I think of immediately is boundaries, maybe let's just say, for example, we're still working on it, either personally or professionally, in terms of our own identity, right? And, obviously we're at different stages and things like that. But I think one thing to talk about is maybe boundaries, and not having, said patient or said family member or said, friend or whatever cross that, what I'm saying? And I think, to me, I mean, I've definitely learned and grown with that, especially over the pandemic. And in a way, to me, how I look at it is, it's a kind of respect for yourself. When you're saying no to someone else, you're saying yes to yourself, and vice versa, right? So I think establishing healthy boundaries, whether it's a doctor-patient relationship, or maybe just like a peer-to-peer, friend-to-friend, child to parent, I think it's important. And when you understand that, then you learn to say to yourself, like, okay, I want to do better by myself. How do I do that? Well, I want to continue to respect myself. So, and, not do this or do this, in the future.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely a big aspect of it, but going a little bit more meta, I suppose, a little bit more abstract, it's about waking up, enlightenment, quote unquote, being more conscious about what you're actually doing. Because we all have our habitual, emotional, behavioral, cognitive reactions, and you just do things a certain way to reduce the anxiety, or just because that's the way you did things. Let's say I always ate this, so at the end of work I'm just gonna keep eating that. Or this is the way my parents always are, so I just always react that way. Or this thing always scares me, so I just always run away. But those are not conscious actions or thoughts or emotions or feelings. They're just ways for you automatically react. And having issues with borders is one way, meaning boundaries is, I'm just going to loosen up my boundary or excessively force my boundary, because that's an automatic way to deal with some sort of psychological or spiritual or physical physiologic anxiety. But essentially it's about then, oh wait, am I just doing the thing like a machine? Am I machine-like and falling into this way that I always do it? The same emotion, the same thought, the same habitual movement and behavior? Or can I actually respond and say, this is an uncomfortable moment. I know that this is what I typically do, and maybe I'll do something differently, even though I know it'll be uncomfortable. And that could be with boundaries for oneself or others, one's lifestyle, one's dietary choices. It could be anything. I'll say breaking out, because that's not the idea. It's about being aware, really self-aware of, oh, wait, this is a moment in which I can consciously choose versus thing just happening again. And it's I make it sound easy maybe, but it's in that moment it's just a lot of anxiety and fear, and you just want to do things where you do it. But it's training to be like, wait, waking up to that moment, to yourself, and doing that work. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if I may,
Yeah.
and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's breaking up the patterns of whether it's, because as a practitioner of lifestyle medicine, doesn't matter if it's like the best diet or physical regimen or what have you, it's really the lifestyle behaviors and the patterns that we get into. And you're talking about things that are a little bit they are somewhat abstract, but it's like, it's on this level where, you have to really tune in and be conscious of, because it's, if you're not aware of it, you will react, like you said. Let's just take, for example, like an argument, between a couple, and, one person is, on the offensive, the other person is on the defensive. And it's like this vicious loop over and over again, and not being able to break up that pattern of doing something, different, so I think that's what you meant. And, and would that be able to, it sounds like it can be applicable for other aspects of life as well.
Yeah. I would give one practical thing to do is find out what is something that you realize you do, but you realize you're doing it. For example, sometimes when I'm nervous, like do something with my hands, or I'm passing something side to side, or I'm tapping my legs, or like my shoulders get tight, or I shut up and don't say anything, or I yell. What is a particular way that you react? And you can say, oh, wait, I'm doing this thing that I always do. I'm clenching my teeth, or my shoulders are up, or I'm like playing with my hands, or there's a particular tell, I suppose, that you can use to trigger yourself. Hey, stop for a moment and be a little bit more conscious of what's going on. And of course, getting help and people who can point it out to you is helpful.
Yeah, I was about to say that's actually kind of challenging to do it yourself. You might need like a friend to be like, hey, there's something that I do or say that you could help me, break out of. So no, that's actually pretty good, because we're about to close out, and I actually wanted to go a little bit more practical, in terms of like 3 tips you would impart for someone on how to get started with, navigating themselves, right? Like if you had to give them 3 tips. So one of them is, you said, what are some patterns, to be able to break up, for yourself, and identifying those patterns? Can you give like a couple more?
Yeah. I like the yin yang, like an example in Chinese medicine, right? For very simplicity, for this particular situation, yang is very outwards and doing. Yin is more about being and rejuvenating, resting. And they're both halves. But if you think about it, most of our life is more yang-ing and doing, and not much yin-ing. So the practical idea here is half your day, half your attention, is it dedicated to resting, digesting, parasympathetic, more relaxing stuff, or is 75% of your day more like doing hot go and movement action? So that's more of a question, but I think that's if you look at the actual what you do, it seems it's very clear what's going on. So that's number 2, and number 3 is kind of launching off number 2 is the balance. Is similarly to how we go and do things for just gotta work or whatever, or finding information from outside, or watching TV, or reading a book. But there's also a inner source of understanding, as one of the Buddhist saying goes, I know everything that I need to know, or something like that. I don't know exactly, but meaning look inside and balance the amount of attention being outside to, I'm going to go to this 40-hour conference. Great. Maybe next time also do a 40-hour looking inside sort of event and balance that out, because otherwise you just get skewed to one side or the other. I guess the question is how much attention goes also towards, I don't say solitude, but inwardness versus also the outwardness. I'm also talking to myself here, so but yeah.
No, for sure. And that, and practical, applications would be like, meditation, deep mindful breathing, even as something as simple as going for a walk and not, what I like to do is go for a walk, not have earplugs, not even carry my phone, be completely detached from the matrix, and and just allow myself to, when things come up, just try not to react to them, just kind of have a very neutral observation to what comes up, whether it's in my body, whether it's a thought, and then just, know that it will pass. It's a lot of Buddhist and Zen type of philosophies, so, but yeah, I totally understand. I think most people don't know how to do that, I mean, you tell me, but, I think most people don't know how to do that. One, we're in a very fast paced, let's just be obsessed with being busy. Why? I don't know, but let's just, keep being busy for some weird reason. And then, and not really think about, ourselves, not really, critically think, not really take the time out to figure out oneself, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like people don't really have a good trusting, in my opinion, really have a good trust, can't really depend on themselves. They're so used to depending on something outside of themselves. It's very, very odd. It makes sense, but it's very odd at the same time, right?
Yeah, this is the perfect example of how people react. Maybe people are listening to us talk and say, oh, I can't leave my phone at home, or I can't do that. And that's a perfect chance to say, oh, wait, why am I thinking that way? Or why do I have to keep doing something? Those are all chances to say those, but then you have to stop yourself and say, oh, I'm having that thought reaction. So I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah.
I don't know if you ever read The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's a very good book, but there's a fifth agreement, and the fifth agreement is basically question everything. Be skeptical and question everything, even yourself, and even people like that you trust and rely on and stuff like that. So it's always putting yourself in a very curious mode, and a very questioning, mode, instead of just completely trusting something immediately, like question it, there's no right or wrong to it. Francis, thank you so much for taking the time out. If people are interested to learn more about you, to reach out to you, how can they find you? I know that you have a book as well. Share your stuff.
Yeah, I would say the best way is go to drfrancisyou.com, and all my social media is at Dr. Francis Yoo. I set it up in a way where everything's sort of easy to find from that one way, including the books and all that, which I'm sure we could talk a lot about. But there are basically a lot of questions for curiosity and contemplation as well. So, but Dr. Francis Yoo is the way to find me. Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate it. I feel like this kind of discussion, you could have, asking the identity of man and what is my purpose in life has, existed since, I guess man came onto the scene. So I don't think there's always, there's always going to be an end to, this type of question. And it's great because it forces you to, continually, question, even in our current era, so thank you so much, Dr. Francis Yoo, for coming on and sharing your, life wisdom. And I'm sure we can do another talk just based off of, all you've amassed and learned. Yeah. So, but I really appreciate it.
Yeah, me too.
Guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. If you like this, please share, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you feel like this was a benefit for others, please let them know as well. And, until next time, please say goodbye to Dr. Francis Yoo.
Guys, thank you so much for watching that episode. We hope you enjoy it. And please remember to like and subscribe down below so you can get continuous updates for future episodes and future guests. And we can't wait for this upcoming season. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will